Let's talk about Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns because this is a dangerous contending team in the AFC, not only in contention to win that AFC North division, but to make a deep playoff push. You look at what this team was able to do this season. When Deshaun Watson went down with that shoulder injury, you had Joe Flacco come in and basically look like a star quarterback with this team. They made the NFL playoffs, and yes, they lost against the Houston Texans. But Deshaun Watson showed in those 6 games, because they only lost 1 game with him this season, that he could still be a star quarterback in the NFL. And I know a lot of people are down on Deshaun Watson because of some things that happened off the field. I'm not going to get into that, but let's give Deshaun Watson some more time. And I know a lot of people rolling their eyes right now. The first season that he had with this team, he missed 12 games due to a suspension because of some things that happened off the field. But the year before that, he missed the entire season because he held out with the Houston Texans. He said that he no longer wanted to play with them. He held out. The last time he played a full season, he had 33 passing touchdowns to 7 interceptions. And yes, a lot has changed since then. But the Cleveland Browns have had a lot of success with and without Deshaun Watson over the last couple of seasons. Give Kevin Stefanski a lot of credit. If we go back 5, 6, even 10 years ago, the Cleveland Browns were viewed as one of the worst franchises in the NFL. And some people hold that against this team. They make it seem like Deshaun Watson is some type of bomb. Before he got injured, he was playing better than majority of the quarterbacks in the NFL. Let me remind you of what he did against the Baltimore Ravens before he suffered that shoulder injury. He was 15 of 15 in the second half with 101 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown, and basically got them over the hump to win that game against the quote-unquote best defense in the NFL. In my opinion, the best defense was the Cleveland Browns defense, but give respect to the Baltimore Ravens. So let's not act like Deshaun Watson cannot go back and turn back that clock and he can't be a star quarterback with the Cleveland Browns, because Deshaun Watson, talent-wise, is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL still. He has to be healthy. He has to stay on the field, but he's missed a lot of time. Let Deshaun Watson continue to get time, and let this be the one make or break season for Deshaun Watson. I know that they gave up a lot of draft picks for Deshaun, but they've still been very successful. Give Kevin Stefanski a lot of credit for that as well, and give Andrew Berry a lot of credit as well for putting the right talent on the field, because they've made some major moves in the last couple of seasons as well. And I look at this wide receiving core. I love it. I love this wide receiving core that they have. Amari Cooper just had a career year this season. 1,250 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns. He has 72 catches this season as well. David Njoku looked like a star tight end this season. For the first time in his career, he looked like he was worthy of being that first round pick that they spent on him in the same class with guys like Myles Garrett and Jabril Peppers. 882 receiving yards, 6 receiving touchdowns on 81 catches. In the last couple of years, they traded for guys like Amari Cooper, they traded for Elijah Moore, and they just made a trade to go get Jerry Jeudy. So they acquired their top wide receivers via trade by trading 5th and 6th round picks to go get them. And I love that. Jerry Jeudy has been a solid wide receiver in the NFL. This is a guy that has a lot of potential. Jerry Jeudy could be a very good route runner at this level, and he is. But I'm talking about being a very good route technician similar to Keenan Allen. In 2020, his rookie season, 52 catches, 856 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. In 2021, 38 catches for 467 receiving yards, 0 receiving touchdowns. 2022, 972 receiving yards, 6 receiving touchdowns. And this previous season, 54 catches for 758 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. And they're not expecting for him to be the number 1 wide receiver. When they drafted him a couple of years ago in the first round, he was drafted in the same draft class as guys like CeeDee Lamb. So his numbers don't look good. But he was in a horrible situation with the Denver Broncos. The quarterback play was not good, and the offensive play calling was terrible as well from guys like Nathaniel Hackett, and you just did not have the right chemistry with the quarterbacks. It was a revolving door to that quarterback spot. So let Deshaun Watson take care of these weapons. If he can stay healthy, this is a more than good enough wide receiving core that can go out there and can contend at the next level. They just need their offense to be consistent and stay healthy. And the reason why I say Kevin Stefanski had a great year this year, he was one of the best coaches in the NFL this season. Look at all the injuries. Deshaun Watson went down. You had P.J. Walker come in. He was not the right quarterback. Dorian Thompson-Robinson came in, had a horrible game against the Baltimore Ravens. You called Joe Flacco literally off his couch. You call Joe Flacco to come in off his couch. He comes in. He looks very good with this team. I understand what happened in the playoffs, but they were not supposed to be there to begin with. Nick Chubb, one of the best running backs in the NFL, but before he suffered that knee injury against the Steelers a couple of months ago in a Monday Night Football game, you had to depend on Jerome Ford. You had to call back Kareem Hunt as well. Hopefully Nick Chubb can bounce back from that, but these are two brutal knee injuries that he has suffered. He suffered a similar one in college when he was in Georgia, and he just suffered this one. He bounced back from the first one very nicely. Hopefully he can still be a star running back. If I'm them, I'm drafting a running back in the NFL draft. That is what I will do. Jerome Ford gave you a lot of good snaps, gave you a lot of good carries, but he's no Nick Chubb. And Jerome Ford is not a true consistent starting back, especially in this division. You need Nick Chubb to be that guy, but at the same time, you have to be cautious as well because of those knee injuries that he suffered. But besides that run game, I like what they have, and I think they'll be consistent. I still like Nick Chubb, but I'm worried about those injuries. The offensive line dealt with a lot of injuries as well. Some guys stepped up on this offensive line. Jack Conklin got hurt against the Steelers in that same game against the Steelers with Nick Chubb. In the same game Nick Chubb went down, he went down as well with a torn ACL. You call in DeJuan Jones, a mountain of a man. He looked phenomenal at the tackle position. Then you had DeJuan Jones go down later in the season as well, and you're depending on James Hudson III to come in and be a starting tackle with you as well. So they dealt with a lot of injuries, and yet with all those injuries, they still made the NFL playoffs. That is a standard now for the Cleveland Browns that Kevin Stefanski has set. And I know a lot of Cleveland Brown fans will say this. Look at what Baker Mayfield has done with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was not going to work out with the Cleveland Browns. I'm sorry to tell you guys that it was not going to work out. The damage was done. That kid needed to change the scenery, and the Cleveland Browns need to change the scenery as well. Kevin Stefanski got the team to the playoffs with Baker Mayfield. The year after that, he was dealing with the torn labrum. It was just not a good situation. They basically pushed him out the door for Deshaun Watson. Some Brown fans hate that trade, but regardless, they've had a lot of good production from this offense without Baker Mayfield. That's what I will say. And that's the last time I'm going to touch on the whole Deshaun Watson hate. I understand why a lot of people hate him because he hasn't been that star quarterback. He hasn't been on the same level with guys like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen in the last couple of years. But give him time. Give him this season. I think that he can be. And if he is not, I'll be the first one to call him out for it. But I think the Cleveland Browns will be a dangerous threat in this division. Because you look at the Baltimore Ravens, this team can compete with the Baltimore Ravens if they're fully healthy. Even when they were dealing with injuries, they were competing with the Baltimore Ravens. You look at the Steelers, they can compete with the Steelers as well. They can make that a tough game. And you look at the turnovers that Deshaun Watson had in that first game against the Steelers, it was just a house of horrors, man. You had Nick Chubb, he went down. Jack Conklin went down. You had a pick six in that game to where the tight end pulled up and they were on the miscommunication. Alex Highsmith takes it to the house for 6 points. Then Deshaun Watson fumbled for 6 as well. Those are 2 touchdowns. The defense did their thing in that game, but basically the offense gave up 2 touchdowns in that game. If they clean up some of those sloppy errors, they'll be in a better situation. And speaking of that defense, phenomenal this season. Myles Garrett won Defensive Player of the Year, and Myles Garrett's one of the best defensive players in the NFL. 14 sacks on the season, 4 forced fumbles. He's a premier edge rusher with this team. Dalvin Tomlinson is a very good run stopper, can push the pocket as well. They just re-signed Zadarius Smith to a deal. 5.5 sacks on the season, 1 forced fumble. And you may say, hey, only 5.5 sacks. Where is the double-digit sacks that he had with the Green Bay Packers? He doesn't have to do that. He creates a distraction, he seals the edge, and he walks back running backs. Just because he doesn't have the high sack numbers does not mean that he is not getting to the quarterback. He had a high pressure rate this season. He meshed very well with Myles Garrett. And give Jim Schwartz a lot of credit as well because this was his first season calling defensive plays with this team. You know, you had Joe Woods last season. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. You bring Jim Schwartz over. They're one of the best defenses in the NFL this season. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, one of the best linebackers in the NFL. This kid is special. When it's time to pay him, they just better pay up because he's phenomenal. Can cover in space, can lock up tight ends, that can lock up running backs at the backfield, and is an amazing tackler as well. I love his game. In the secondary, Greg Newsome with Denzel Ward has been one of the best cornerback duos in the AFC. One of the best cornerback duos in the NFL in general. So give Andrew Berry a lot of credit for that as well. And I like the safeties that they have. Grant Delpit missed time as well. And Grant Delpit looked very good before he dealt with the injury that he was dealing with. So the Cleveland Browns were cursed by injuries. If this team was fully healthy, they could have made a very far, deep playoff push in terms of possibly getting to the AFC Championship. I really do believe that. Because you look at the close game that they had with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, can they compete with the Kansas City Chiefs? I won't come on here and just fully say that, but they have the talent to. They have the defense to. They have a defense that can make any quarterback uncomfortable, and they have a secondary that can take the football away from you. And if you do have that dominant run game with Nick Chubb and the weapons around Deshaun Watson, that's very good. You look at Elijah Moore. A couple of years ago, this kid was rated as a top wide receiver in the New York Jets. He could not get the football because of terrible quarterback play, similar to Jerry Jeudy. And I think Elijah Moore came in. He did a very good job this season. 640 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. He averaged 10 yards a catch. Not every single wide receiver or tight end in the NFL to have over 1,000 yards receiving. It's about what you do when you get the football. So he's averaging a first down a catch. The same with David Njoku. They don't need for Jerry Jeudy to come in and get over 1,000 yards with Amari Cooper. They just need these guys to be consistent, get open, and fit the system of Kevin Stefanski. And with Jerry Jeudy being a great route runner and those intermediate routes and being a good deep threat as well, I think that he can be a superstar with this team. The same with Amari Cooper, because Amari Cooper's going to be the number 1 target regardless. So when you really think about it, Jerry Jeudy is the number 3 option because you have Amari Cooper, David Njoku, and now you have Jerry Jeudy with Elijah Moore. Those are 4 good receiving threats for Deshaun Watson if he can stay fully healthy. And I do think that Dorian Thompson-Robinson can be very good developing on the bench. He was just not ready to play in his rookie season. I think that kid can do a lot of good things as well. But let me know in the comment section below, am I tripping on the Cleveland Browns? Or was this just a one-year wonder for this team? Or do you believe that this team can make a deep playoff push if Deshaun Watson is fully healthy? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last Wayne guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.